While the West built a cult of personality, the East built an empire. Tesla was never just a car company. It was a statement, a revolution on wheels. And Elon Musk wasn't just its CEO. He was its prophet. The man who would take humanity to Mars, rewrite energy, and outsmart every legacy automaker on Earth. But while the world obsessed over Musk's tweets, interviews, lawsuits, and loyalty bonuses, something else was happening. Quietly, methodically, and thousands of miles away from Silicon Valley. A Chinese company that almost no one in the West took seriously was becoming the largest electric vehicle manufacturer in the world. And they didn't do it with charisma, or vision, or hype. They did it with silence. BYD doesn't have a rock star CEO. It doesn't go viral. It doesn't promise to colonize planets or save civilization. It just builds, relentlessly. And that raises an uncomfortable question. What if the future of innovation doesn't belong to the loudest man in the room, but to the machine that never stops moving? In the early 2010s, Tesla wasn't leading the EV race. It was defining it. While traditional automakers hesitated, mocked, or scrambled to retrofit gas-powered models, Tesla launched something different. Sleek, fast, fully electric vehicles that didn't just appeal to eco-conscious drivers, but to believers. Elon Musk didn't sell cars. He sold conversion. He turned charging stations into cathedrals of the future, made quarterly earnings feel like prophecy, and transformed product delays into rituals of anticipation. Tesla didn't spend on advertising. It didn't need to. Musk was the brand. Every tweet, every headline, every provocation became part of the company's oxygen. It was a masterclass in modern mythology. One man, one mission, and a world ready to follow him. Not just because of what he was building, but because of what he represented. Vision over execution. Disruption over tradition. Velocity over predictability. For years, it worked. The stock soared. Wall Street recalibrated its expectations. Tesla became the most valuable automaker on the planet, without producing nearly as many cars as its rivals. Because in the Tesla story, value wasn't measured in output. It was measured in belief. While Tesla was building an audience, BYD was building factories. Headquartered in Shenzhen, BYD began not as a car company, but as a battery manufacturer. It didn't chase headlines or venture capital stardom. It didn't make promises to the public. It just quietly climbed the value chain, year after year, layer by layer. It wasn't trying to be iconic. It was trying to be ready. Backed by Chinese industrial policy, protected from foreign competition, and fueled by an enormous domestic market, BYD had no need for theatrical leadership. No need to go viral. In fact, anonymity was part of its strategy. While Elon Musk appeared on podcasts, smoked joints on camera, launched flamethrowers and challenged regulators, BYD's founder Wang Chuanfu kept a low profile, almost invisible outside China. He gave few interviews, rarely spoke in English, and made almost no effort to become a global celebrity. And yet, behind the curtain, BYD was quietly doing something Musk promised to do. It was electrifying the world. In 2022, it sold more EVs, including plug-in hybrids, in China than Tesla. By 2023, it was outproducing Tesla globally, and in 2024, it began expanding into Europe, Latin America, and Southeast Asia with alarming speed. No drama, no spectacle, just volume. Tesla and BYD don't just make electric vehicles. They represent two opposing visions of how the future gets built. Tesla moves fast, talks loud, and chases the extraordinary. Its roadmap is filled with bold bets, humanoid robots, fully autonomous driving, Mars colonization. It's a company powered by ambition, but even more, by attention. Because attention is leverage. Attention drives valuation. And valuation, in turn, gives Tesla the ability to raise capital, survive volatility, and push boundaries that slower companies never dare to touch. It's a strategy that works best when the spotlight is on. BYD, on the other hand, thrives in the dark. Its approach is industrial, incremental, and deeply political. Not in the Western sense of press conferences and lobbying, but in the Chinese sense. Long-term alignment with national strategy. Subsidies, infrastructure, protectionism, all woven into the company's rise like steel beams in a factory wall. It doesn't need to disrupt anything, it just needs to outlast you. Where Tesla builds hype, BYD builds supply chains. Where Tesla launches products with keynote speeches and viral tweets, BYD refines manufacturing tolerances in silence. It's not better, it's not worse, it's systemic. Two models, two cultures, two power structures, colliding in the form of cars. In the West, Tesla became more than a product. It became an identity. Driving a Tesla signaled more than environmental awareness. It was a statement of futurism, rebellion, even intellect. It said, "I'm not just buying a car, I'm buying a future." And that's because Elon Musk didn't just sell vehicles. He sold imagination. He understood better than anyone that in the digital age, branding isn't about logos. It's about mythology. You don't need a Super Bowl ad if the internet already treats you like a genius. This is why Tesla could delay deliveries, miss targets, issue recalls, and still retain loyalty. It wasn't about performance, it was about belief in the narrative. BYD is the opposite. Its branding is minimal, utilitarian, sometimes awkward. Its cars are competent, but rarely iconic. In Europe or the US, few can pronounce the name. No one knows the CEO. And for years, that was seen as a weakness. But here's the irony. In markets like Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia, places where price, reliability, and availability matter more than narrative, BYD is winning. Not because it inspires emotion, but because it delivers. While Tesla sells meaning, BYD sells access. And in a global market where middle-class drivers care more about charging range than robo-taxis, that access may prove to be the more powerful brand, even if no one hashtags it. Tesla was built in the image of a man. BYD was built in the shadow of a state. While Elon Musk operates as a kind of capitalist sovereign, a one-man force of will reshaping entire industries, BYD functions more like a strategic asset within China's broader national agenda. This isn't a conspiracy, it's a structure. For over a decade, the Chinese government has poured subsidies, land access, regulatory protection, and infrastructure into its domestic EV sector. The goal was never just innovation. It was control of supply chains, of energy transition, of the narrative around who leads the future. BYD, with its in-house battery production, vertical integration, and ability to scale at speed, became the perfect vehicle for that plan. Not because it had the best marketing, but because it had the fewest dependencies. No reliance on foreign chips. No vulnerability to Western capital. Just quiet alignment with long-term strategy. Tesla, by contrast, remains exposed to investor sentiment, to quarterly expectations, to headlines, to Elon. Even Tesla's presence in China, its Shanghai Gigafactory, is a symbol of this tension. It gave Tesla access to the largest EV market on Earth, but it also placed a Western icon in the hands of a rival system, one that doesn't blink when geopolitical pressure rises. So while Musk tweets about free speech and AI ethics, BYD expands quietly through trade routes and government contracts, playing a longer, slower game that has no interest in applause. Innovation is supposed to feel bold, disruptive, loud. And for years, Tesla embodied that spirit perfectly. It challenged not just the auto industry, but the very idea of what a car company could be. It blurred lines between tech and transportation, ambition and identity. It made the future feel cinematic. BYD? It never tried to feel like the future, it just built it. Brick by brick, bus by bus, battery by battery. That's the paradox. The company that looks less like a visionary might end up shaping the world more deeply, not by sparking imaginations, but by saturating markets. Because while Tesla redefined what a car could be, BYD redefined who gets to drive one. It made EVs affordable, not aspirational. It brought electrification to regions that don't headline tech blogs, but represent the next billion consumers. And in doing so, it quietly eroded the Western assumption that innovation must look visionary to be real. Sometimes, the most transformative force isn't the one that dazzles. It's the one that scales. The one that doesn't ask for your attention, only your adoption. At a glance, Tesla and BYD are just two automakers chasing the same market. But look closer, and the stakes are far higher. This isn't just about EVs. It's about which story of the future becomes dominant. One story is individualistic, dramatic, centered around a single brilliant, polarizing man who dares to bend reality through force of will. A story of risk, friction, and radical optimism, broadcast in 280 characters at a time. The other is systemic, quiet, shaped by long-term state planning, slow accumulation of capacity, and an almost unnerving absence of personality. No drama, no cult. Just replication, efficiency, and reach. Tesla asks to be believed. BYD doesn't care if you're watching. And that may be the most disruptive strategy of all. Because in the end, the future doesn't need to feel like a revolution. It just needs to arrive, on time, in volume, at a price that doesn't require belief, only purchase. And in that race, hype may get you noticed, but silence might get you everywhere. There's a hidden cost to building a company around a person. When that person becomes the story, so does everything that comes with them. Tesla has always been inseparable from Elon Musk. His voice moves its stock. His controversies make headlines. His charisma is both shield and sword. But this centralization of image comes with a dangerous asymmetry. Because while Musk's brilliance attracts belief, his volatility repels capital. Institutional investors may tolerate risk, but they don't like unpredictability they can't model. This creates a paradox. The same traits that made Tesla iconic, the boldness, the antagonism, the spectacle, are now liabilities in a maturing market. Government contracts, regulatory approvals, and global partnerships all require more than just hype. They require predictability. BYD doesn't have this problem. It doesn't have a single face. It has a structure. And structures, unlike personalities, don't have mood swings. They don't alienate regulators. They don't post at 3 a.m. So while Tesla's brand equity remains enormous, it also remains vulnerable. Because no matter how strong your vision is, if it's tied to one man, then all it takes is one moment to unravel the myth. There's something quietly ironic about Tesla's rise. Its most productive factory, the Gigafactory in Shanghai, isn't in America. It's in China. The very country often framed as Tesla's biggest rival is also its most essential partner. Without the Shanghai plant, Tesla wouldn't have scaled globally at the speed it did. Production would have lagged. Margins would have suffered. The EV narrative might have lost momentum, but that success came at a price. Location, dependency, exposure. Tesla was the first foreign automaker allowed to fully own a factory in China. At the time, it was hailed as a breakthrough. But in hindsight, it also placed one of America's most influential tech symbols squarely within the jurisdiction of a rival power. A government that controls land, energy, labor, and data. And while Tesla built in China, BYD began moving outward. quietly, strategically. It expanded across Southeast Asia. It entered Europe through Hungary. It gained footholds in Brazil, Mexico, South Africa. Not with noise, but with presence, Tesla remains a company that scales from the West. BYD is becoming a company that scales around it, and that raises a question Western audiences rarely ask. In a global race, who holds more power? The company that built the factory, or the one that owns the terrain? Tesla didn't just change cars, it changed what we want from them. It made EVs feel luxurious, futuristic, even ideological. A Tesla wasn't just a machine, it was a message. You weren't buying transportation, you were buying transformation. Musk understood the psychology of tech better than most founders. He made people believe that ownership was participation, that pressing the accelerator was an act of revolution, that the car in your garage somehow connected you to something cosmic. But that emotional charge comes with fragility. Desire is volatile. It fades. It demands constant stimulation. And that's where BYD plays a different game entirely. BYD doesn't try to seduce. It doesn't try to inspire. It tries to be normal, affordable, everywhere. Its EVs don't reshape identity. They reshape expectation. You don't buy a BYD to feel like a disruptor. You buy it because it makes sense, because it works, because it's there, in your city, in your budget, in your language. Over time, that changes behavior. Not through dreams, but through default. And in the end, maybe that's the more radical innovation. Not making us want something extraordinary, but making the extraordinary feel ordinary. We talk about competition like it's a scoreboard. Sales, market cap, units delivered, stock performance. And by those metrics, Tesla and BYD are locked in a fierce battle, each claiming milestones, each dominating headlines, in very different ways. But what if winning isn't about numbers? What if it's about shaping conditions? Tesla redefined the conversation. It made electric cars aspirational. It pulled the entire industry forward, often kicking and screaming. Its victory was cultural, measured in mindshare. BYD never tried to own the narrative. It just made sure it owned the infrastructure. It didn't want to be the symbol. It wanted to be the standard. So what does it mean to win? Is it being remembered, quoted, revered? Or is it being present, quietly, inevitably, inescapably? Because when history is written in supply chains, not headlines, the company you never worshipped might be the one that shaped your world. Maybe the world still needs visionaries. Maybe we still need someone to point to the stars, to dare, to disrupt. Or maybe we're entering a different kind of future. One shaped less by bold personalities and more by quiet systems. Less by myth and more by structure. Tesla made us believe. BYD made it real. So when we ask, who's winning? Maybe we're asking the wrong question. Because in the end, the future may not belong to the most admired company, but to the most adopted. And that raises a question most people aren't ready to ask. Who defines tomorrow? The man who builds the dream, or the machine that quietly replaces it? If that question matters to you, you're already in the right place. Subscribe and keep thinking.